Hey gang, Mark Sweeney here from Austin, Texas. Beautiful Austin Dental Spa and very hot Austin, Texas. It was 100 degrees yesterday, one of the hottest days of the whole summer. And now we're getting a cold front coming through tonight. It's going to be only 85 tomorrow. If you've been tuning in for the last 7 years or so, that you know that every Wednesday about this time, we have brought you the latest, greatest in not just dental news, but overall body health, nutrition, all kinds of interesting topics. When we first started it 7+ years ago, I said, this will go for about 6 months and we're going to run out of topics. Well, 7.5 years later, we've still not run out of topics. If you tuned in the last couple of weeks, you know that the theme for this month was sign off in September, because this is the last episode. Today will be the last episode of Wisdom Wednesday. I've had a blast for the last 7.5 years of bringing this to you, especially that miserable period in 2020 during the COVID pandemic and the shutdown. We doubled down and did 2 Wisdom Wednesdays during most of those weeks. And so it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate all of you who have tuned in. Today is going to be no different. We're going to end with a bang with some recent research out of Stanford University out in the Bay Area, and I think you'll find it very interesting. So again, thanks to all of you who, particularly Vicki Bierstead, who's been our top fan for 7.5 years. We appreciate you, Vicki, and I'll give you a hug next time you're in the office. Let's go right into the research. Stanford University just came out with an article published in Science Advances, where they propose that there are 2 different things, 2 different pathways going on in a human brain that have to do with cognitive abilities as we age. So they studied people in the 60 to 80-something-year-old range, some who had perfectly clear memory still at that stage, and some who were starting to have a little more trouble recognizing it. I think we all kind of agree that as we age, we realize that we call them senior moments, when you can't quite recall something as quickly or as clearly as you used to. Well, I found this very interesting because I'm 72 years old and I've already had a couple of those senior moments. And what they found is there are 2 different things going on. One had to do with just human biology, that as we age, the brain doesn't function quite as snappily as it did. And so those are like pre-Alzheimer's changes, where there's a plaque that develops in a certain part of the brain called the beta-tau plaque, and they're actually part of the study today. They measured that in the human bloodstream of these subjects. The other was related to, and I found this very interesting, related to the brain's capacity to focus and really pay close attention to what's going on. So each of these pathways independently influence what's going on in the brain and how sharp people are. Now, not surprisingly, the researchers found that, let me see if I can find out which, here they are, 166 adults age 60 to 88. That's my kind of study, when it's over 100 subjects and it's a targeted group. They didn't get into whether it was male or female. Really doesn't matter for the purposes of this study. All the participants, all 166, were deemed to be cognitively normal. So there were no pre-Alzheimer's or dementia participants in there. And here's the study. They showed people words and pictures. So they might show a picture of Queen Elizabeth, and then they might pair it with the Golden Gate Bridge. Why they would do that, I don't know, but those are just 2 examples that they gave. And they asked each of the 166 people to form associations between the person or the word and the photo to form some kind of association. And then they waited some time, and then they quizzed them on it. What was the association that they made between the two pictures? They didn't say how much time went by, but I would imagine it was probably something like 2 weeks or so, or maybe longer. But they did brain scans on them before, when they first showed them the pictures and the associated photos, and then they did brain scans on them again. At the same time, they also took blood samples on them so they could measure that tau protein that has to do with Alzheimer's, because a lot of people have it, but they're not showing signs of Alzheimer's. They also noticed or tracked the area of the brain that the activity was going on when they showed them the second set of the photos and the words. So the frontal parietal region is where it goes, up in the frontal cortex. They called it the dorsal attention network. But they found that when you're really focusing on something, that part of the brain lights up. So they collected not only blood but spinal fluid samples from these people while they were doing the brain scans on them. A lot of stuff going on there. But they found out some really interesting stuff. That one, you can't control to a great extent the beta tau proteins floating around in your brain. That's somewhat genetic. But they found that we have total control over how intensely we want to focus on something when we're processing particularly new memories, that the more attention you pay to that particular thing that you're learning that's new, the more likely it was to be remembered correctly. So a lot of interest in, that's why they suggest to people to keep playing Sudoku and crossword puzzles and things that you have to pay attention to quickly, because that attention pathway, it will offset somewhat the other pathway, the Alzheimer's pathway, that will keep you from being able to remember these things. So paying attention is an important function. So the conclusion, can you combat declining memory? Yes, especially the more closely you pay attention and give it your 100% attention. So I thought that was really interesting stuff. And if you've tuned in before, you know that I always give a health tip of the week, and this one just segues right into what's going on today. We're going to talk about 3 ways you can get good at saying goodbye. You know, goodbyes are typically framed in the frame of oh, well, they're not a good thing. They're always negative. Well, that's not necessarily so. Goodbyes first should not be a surprise. Nobody likes those kind of surprises when somebody says, "See ya, I never want to talk to you again," or I've gotten this a few hundred times over 46-year career. You get that 2 weeks notice that, hey, I'm resigning. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes it ruins my day. Secondly, so 1, don't let it be a surprise. Prepare the people you're getting ready to surprise. 2, be clear about your goodbyes. Don't leave any loose ends hanging. Make sure that the person you're saying goodbye to knows exactly what's going on. And is it a final thing, or is it a, hey, it's Thanksgiving and I'll see you again at Christmas? And third, and most importantly, celebrate the goodbyes. That's exactly what we're going to do today, is celebrate how much fun this has been over 7 years to have this gang together. Thank you, Austin Dental Spa, and thank you to all of you who are listening in today.
Whoa,
there we go. I get a little nervous with this.
Yeah.
So thank you all for 7 good years of listening in on Wisdom Wednesday. I can't say that it'll never come back, but it's going to go away for a while anyway. So thanks again.
Cheers.